Have you ever noticed that you can't stand being alone with yourself for even 5 minutes? You wake up, immediately grab your phone, you're in the bathroom scrolling, you're waiting for coffee, scrolling, you're alone in your dusk, and suddenly you need a podcast, music, anything to fill the silence. Be honest, when was the last time you sat in complete silence with just your thoughts? No phone, no TV, no distractions, just you. If you felt uncomfortable just thinking about that, you're not alone. But here's what the ancient Stoics knew that we've forgotten. The inability to be alone is making you weak. Before we dive deep into this, if you're someone who wants to master your mind and take control of your life, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We're building a community of people who refuse to be controlled by their emotions and circumstances. Drop a comment below telling me, how much time do you spend alone each day? Let's see who's really comfortable with solitude. Now imagine this scenario. It happened to me, and maybe it's happened to you too. You're sitting at home. Your phone dies. The TV's broken. Everyone's busy. And suddenly, you're alone with nothing but your thoughts. And it feels terrifying. Your mind starts racing. You feel anxious. You feel like you need to do something, be somewhere, talk to someone. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in history, wrote in his private journal, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." The Emperor of Rome had everything, power, wealth, people surrounding him constantly. Yet he understood that true strength comes from solitude. But we've been lied to. Society tells us that being alone means you're lonely, that you're a loser, that something's wrong with you. We're told to network, socialize, stay connected, be productive. And we wonder why we're anxious, depressed, and don't even know who we are anymore. Here's the truth. Solitude isn't loneliness, it's freedom. If this resonates with you, smash that like button right now. And stick with me because by the end of this video, you'll understand why the greatest minds in history, from Seneca to Epictetus, from Buddha to Thoreau, all practiced solitude. And more importantly, you'll learn exactly how to use it to transform your life. Let's get into it. Solitude versus loneliness. Let's begin by drawing a crucial distinction. Solitude and loneliness are not the same thing, though we often confuse them. Loneliness is an emotional state of feeling disconnected, unwanted, or isolated even when surrounded by others. It's involuntary and painful. Loneliness whispers that we are fundamentally alone in a way that hurts. Solitude, on the other hand, is chosen. It's the intentional withdrawal from social interaction to spend time with yourself. Where loneliness feels like abandonment, solitude feels like coming home. You can be lonely in a crowded room and experience profound solitude on a busy city street. The difference lies not in external circumstances, but in your relationship with yourself. Here's something fascinating. The ability to be alone is actually a prerequisite for genuine connection with others. Psychologist Donald Winnicott observed that the capacity to be alone develops in the presence of another, typically in childhood, when a parent provides a secure base that allows a child to explore independently. This early experience teaches us that we can be ourselves, separate and whole, without losing our connection to others. As adults, those who are comfortable with solitude tend to have richer, more authentic relationships. Why? Because they're not desperately seeking others to complete them or validate their existence. They come to relationships from a place of wholeness rather than emptiness, offering genuine presence rather than neediness. Why is solitude so conducive to creativity? In solitude, we escape the constant reactive mode that social interaction requires. We're not performing, not managing impressions, not responding to stimuli. This creates space for what psychologists call constructive internal reflection, the mental wandering that allows disparate ideas to connect in novel ways. When you're alone, your brain shifts into different patterns of activity. The default mode network activates, the same network involved in imagination, memory consolidation, and envisioning the future. This is where breakthrough insights happen, where problems suddenly have solutions, where you see connections you couldn't see before. Solitude gives us the opportunity to ask fundamental questions. What do I actually think about this? What do I want? not what do others expect of me. What brings me joy independent of others' approval? Who am I when nobody's watching? These aren't easy questions, which is partly why we avoid them. But living an examined life, as Socrates suggested, requires time for that examination. Solitude is the laboratory of self-knowledge, emotional regulation. In solitude, we learn to sit with uncomfortable emotions rather than immediately distracting ourselves or seeking others to fix how we feel. This capacity is crucial for emotional maturity. When you can be alone with your anxiety, your sadness, your anger, without immediately reaching for your phone or calling a friend, you develop what psychologists call distress tolerance. This doesn't mean suffering needlessly or refusing support when you need it. It means developing the confidence that you can handle your own emotional weather patterns, that difficult feelings won't destroy you. This self-trust is liberating and makes you more resilient. We've all heard about physical rest, but psychological rest is equally important. Social interaction, even enjoyable interaction, requires energy. You're processing social cues, managing your presentation, regulating your responses. Introverts have long known this, but it's true for everyone to varying degrees. Solitude offers psychological restoration. Studies show that time alone can lower stress hormones, reduce overstimulation, and allow the nervous system to downregulate. In our hyperconnected world, solitude functions like a reset button, helping us return to baseline. Major decisions benefit from solitude. When you are constantly surrounded by others' opinions, advice, and expectations, it becomes difficult to hear your own voice. In solitude, you can think through options without external pressure, without having to immediately justify or explain your reasoning. This doesn't mean making decisions in isolation, ignoring relevant input from others, but it does mean taking time alone to integrate that input, to test how different options feel in your gut, to imagine different futures without an audience. If solitude is so beneficial, why do so many of us avoid it? The answer is both simple and profound. Solitude forces us to confront ourselves, and that can be uncomfortable. In silence, all the things we've been avoiding, difficult emotions, unresolved conflicts, existential questions, uncomfortable truths, have room to surface. The German philosopher Blaise Pascal wrote that all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. He understood that we keep busy, distract ourselves, fill every moment precisely because stopping means facing ourselves. Let's talk about the addiction to distraction. Modern technology has made avoiding solitude easier than ever. We carry devices that can summon any distraction we desire. Entertainment, information, social connection, shopping, gaming. The average person checks their phone 96 times per day. We've created a culture of continuous partial attention where true solitude has become almost impossible. This isn't accidental. Tech companies employ teams of psychologists to make their platforms as addictive as possible, exploiting our social nature and our fear of missing out. Breaking free from this requires conscious effort and recognizing that what feels like connection is often just distraction. The fear of missing out is real and it's powerful. When you choose solitude, you're choosing not to be somewhere else, not to participate in whatever others are doing. In our social media age, we're constantly confronted with evidence of experiences we're not having, conversations we're not part of, fun we're not sharing. But here's a reframe. When you're scrolling through others' experience, you're not having your own. True presence in your own life sometimes requires absence from others' lives. The question isn't whether you're missing out, but what you're missing out on, others' curated highlights, or your own authentic experience. If you're not accustomed to solitude, don't start with a week-long silent retreat. Start with 10 minutes. Sit with yourself, perhaps with a cup of tea, without your phone, without a book, without music. Just be. Notice what comes up. Notice the urge to reach for distraction. Don't judge yourself. Just observe. Gradually extend these periods. Maybe it's a weekly hour-long walk alone. Maybe it's a monthly morning at a cafe by yourself. Maybe it's an annual solo trip. Find what works for you and protect that time fiercely. Physical space matters. If possible, designate a space in your home as yours alone, even if it's just a chair in the corner. This is your solitude spot where others know not to disturb you. The simple act of sitting in this space can become a ritual that signals to your brain, now we're turning inward. If you don't have private space at home, find public spaces that work. A particular bench in the park, a quiet corner of the library, a cafe during off hours. The location matters less than the consistency and your intention. Activities for solitude. Solitude doesn't mean sitting in meditation, though that's certainly one option. You might write in a journal, letting your thoughts spill onto the page without censorship. You might walk in nature, allowing the rhythm of your steps to quiet your mental chatter. You might create art, cook a meal just for yourself, tend a garden. The key is that these activities should be done alone and with presence. If you're walking but listening to a podcast, that's different from walking with just your thoughts. If you're cooking but FaceTiming a friend, you're not in solitude. These aren't better or worse, just different. The digital boundaries. Practicing solitude in the digital age requires clear boundaries. This might mean phone-free mornings or evenings. It might mean a weekly digital Sabbath. It might mean deleting social media apps from your phone so access requires more intention. Whatever boundaries you set, the goal is to create genuine disconnection from the stream of external input. Turn off notifications, put your phone in another room, give yourself permission to be unreachable. The solitude in nature. There's something particularly powerful about solitude in natural settings. Nature doesn't demand anything from us. It simply exists, and in its presence, we can simply exist too. Whether it's a forest, beach, mountain, or desert, time alone in nature has been shown to reduce stress, increase well-being, and foster feelings of awe and connection. You don't need to go far. Even a city park can provide a taste of this. The key is to go alone, to resist the urge to photograph everything for others, and to let yourself be fully present to what you're experiencing. Part 5. Solitude in Society, 5 minutes. Interestingly, when individuals cultivate solitude, it benefits not just them, but society. People who regularly spend time alone tend to be less reactive, more thoughtful, and more capable of genuine empathy. They're less likely to be swept up in group thinking or mob mentality because they've developed an independent perspective. In a world of increasing polarization where people immediately retreat to tribal positions, the practice of solitude creates space for nuance, for holding complexity, for thinking beyond the binary. We desperately need more people capable of this. So where does this leave us? I'm not suggesting you become a hermit or that human connection isn't valuable. It absolutely is. We are social creatures, and relationships are central to human flourishing. But we are also individual consciousness, unique perspectives, singular lives. And that part of us needs tending to. The invitation is to find your balance, to recognize solitude not as something to avoid, but as something to embrace, to see it as a gift you give yourself, a practice of self-care as important as exercise or good nutrition, to understand that the time you spend alone isn't wasted time, but invested time, yielding returns that echo through every other aspect of your life. In learning to be alone, you become better company, both for yourself and for others. You discover that the voice you've been seeking outside yourself has been there all along, waiting quietly for you to stop and listen. But to feel that pull, you need silence. You need solitude. So I encourage you, find your space, your time, your practice. Sit with yourself not as a problem to fix, but as a friend to know. Discover what emerges when you give yourself the gift of your own undivided attention. Because ultimately, the relationship you have with yourself in solitude is the foundation for everything else. And that relationship deserves your time, your care, and your presence. Thank you for watching.